Tell BT they could beat it. Yeah, I want to see me on my TV.
We are back in studio, and my next guest, well, he's here to talk film, although if you know his name, you know he's a newsman, and news and current affairs, so maybe he's mixing the two, who knows. Welcome back to the studio here.
Thank
Tony
you,
Fraser, good to see you.
Always good to be here.
And it's wonderful. First time we're having you on the Now Morning Show, so it's a pleasure.
Great.
Tell us about your film and what's the story behind it.
Well, we did it a few years ago, Dion Buko and myself.
Right.
And Jabari Fraser is one of the narrators also.
Right.
We did it 8 years ago on the 75th anniversary of the 1987 labor riots. They're coming up in a couple of days again, their anniversary. What is this about? This is about really the history of Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean in the post-slavery era. You're talking about post-slavery, post-indentureship period, and all of the struggles, passive and active struggles that went on between 1834 and 1937 was really a culmination of all of those. You had riots right across the Caribbean,
Yes.
Jamaica, St. Kitts, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago. So 1937, and what was it about? It was really about a search for humanity. Today's generation, you and I, everybody, we are the beneficiaries of the struggle of the 1937. And we must not forget, 3-4 years before that, this was a struggle in oil. The struggle went on in sugar with women in the St. Augustine, Tunapuna areas. Those were sugar estates at the period of time. And they also struck for all kinds of reasons. But in Labre, in Faizabad, and the Deep South and so on, it was really about humanity and telling the British government that we people of the Caribbean are humans also.
So this is a documentary. It's part of our Live for Local, so it's going to air on Thursday evening.
And I hope you take many more of our documentaries.
Well, of course. We have an entire evening dedicated to documentary. But what was the process like? How did you go about putting this film together?
Well, we did the research, obviously, and then we talked to all kinds of people, including two of the most significant historians about Trinidad and Tobago, Professors Brinsley Samaru and Professor Bridget Brereton. And we also spoke, the real highlight of it as far as I'm concerned, is that we spoke to some of the people who were involved in that 1937 struggle, 1946 struggle. A man called Redsvers Blades, who was 99 years old when we spoke with him. He was clear like a bell. He lived to 110, incidentally. And to hear their stories, there is one really emotional story. A woman called Miss New Village, she's always on the phone to radio programs. She is the daughter of one of those persons who marched from Labre to Port of Spain in the period, the
so she would have been a child, or she wasn't born
she
yet?
wasn't.
She
She was in her mummy's stomach, and her mummy set off on that march to Port of Spain. So you see the kind of quality of people who struggled. And you know, in this era, I like to say these things, in this era when we like to talk about small island people and outsiders and so on, the majority, the core of the strugglers in the period were Vincentian, Grenadians, Bajans and so on. And if you go into Labre and some of those villages, Strikers Village, for instance, the descendants of all those people.
But of course, the struggle, as you referred to it, spanned the entire region. It was pan-regional.
Absolutely.
So you had Marcus Garvey, for example, up in Jamaica, Uriah Buzz Butler here in Trinidad and Tobago.
In fact, the struggle, the core of the struggle started really in the late 19th century with people like Henry Sylvester Williams and Pan-Africanism and so on. And then
C.L.R. James and these gentlemen.
Very significantly, the Trinidad and Tobago Working Men's Association was formed in that period. And then Captain Cipriani led the returning soldiers who came back. They had seen the free world and they came back and they said, well, we're not prepared to be like that anymore. And so that the struggle continued. Labor strikes in Port of Spain. You had the Negro Welfare, Cultural and Welfare Association with all kinds of people, Jim Barrett and all of that. So the culmination point was 1937. And you know what happened after that, Lisa? What happened after that was the political parties got started. Now, the Trinidad Labour Party started before that, but the parties that we know of in the pre-independence period, they got their start because the 1937 rioters and strugglers and whatever you want, the freedom fighters, they pushed back the boundaries. And so the PNM and all of the other parties came up, and adult franchise in 1946.
Correct. So much history, and I'm happy that you are documenting it for us, Tony Fraser. And we look forward to looking at the documentary. It is called, again,
Prepared
to Fight.
Yes.
And it's going to be showing this Thursday on TTT in our very own segment. It's Our Stories on Thursday. Remember, 8 o'clock. Tune in for Prepared to Fight. And your director? You directed
I am
it?
the producer.
You're the producer?
I'm
Yes.
the producer. As I said, Dion Buku.
Dion Buku is the director.
Is the director,
Yes.
the photographer, etc., etc.
So good to see you again,
Good to see.
Tony.
Back to the cricket now.
Rishi would love you for that, Tony. Rishi would love you for that. Right now.
So they can't empty me with the MTV. Tell BT they could